Let's see if we can pull this up real quick. Give it just a second. So the last time we talked was on April 2nd, and I had a chance to go through some figures, so I'm going to do this. Hopefully, can everybody see the slides now?
Yes.
Great. So first we talked about AG Express grants, and excuse me, I got to look at my second screen here, but we had, as of April 2nd, we had 22 Express grants paid out. We had 8 possible left for $4,000, and we were going to keep it open to April 30th or on a first-in basis or until used up. And as of today, we've got 30 grants paid out. We fully utilized up the $15,000 AG Express grant, and we have 5 submitted but not paid. So, and one of my goals is to figure out where we can get some other funds to get some of these AG Express grants that have not been paid out paid. But right now, as of right now, we've used up the entire fund. And just a quick snapshot, the only reason I bring this up is this is a quick snapshot of all the AG Express grants that have been paid out this year. In the fall, or as soon as we get the year closed out, we put basically a whole list of every single grant, whether it's AG, whether it's a district grant, we put an entire list into the district newsletter. So you'll get to see each one, what the amount was and what it was basically used for. So moving on here. Now we also started the COVID-19 Relief Fund grants, and basically we were able to pull funds from some contingencies we had set up, some grants that were not used or were pushed off into the following year. And we estimated at that time it was going to be about 32,811, and it actually was almost exactly on the dot there. And through today, we were able to fund 33 grants for $32,400. 32 were $1,000 grants, and one was a $400 matching grant. And so that was terrific. We have one on hold. Actually, we paid out the last one came in last night, was the one was the final one to close out this fund. So we have one sitting there waiting right now. It's also my goal to figure out where we can get some funding to pay that, and I expect there may be a couple stragglers out there as well. And so in terms of what the grants look like, I kind of threw this together, this pie chart, so you can kind of see what the clubs did. 15% were PPE or hospital PPE, medical equipment related. 67% were directly food related of some sort. And then another 18% were kind of a mixture, a little bit of food, but kind of a mixture, some student emergency programs and those sort of things. So, you know, from April 2nd to now, we were able to put together a lot of grants. I've got to thank, I know Maury Hansen's on this call. I've got to thank him and Mike Montgomery and John Rasmussen, because behind the scenes, we need 2 signers on every check, and they figured out how to get the checks back and forth and get them signed off and get them out in the mail. And I think we're just sitting on 3 right now, if I have the latest figures, but they'll be out in the next few days, I'm sure, as well. So that's the COVID-19. And then this week we received news that we had actually received the Disaster Relief Fund grant of $25,000. And that should hit our bank. If it hasn't already, it'll hit early part of next week. We took a vote, if you'll recall, if you were on the April 2nd call, we took a vote and decided that it was going to be used for club-directed food and PPE programs. And that's exactly the way we wrote it up and turned it into the Rotary Foundation, which approved it. So, you know, if you do some kind of simple math, you know, we had approximately between 31 and 33 clubs request AG Express grants or COVID-19 grants. And so if we just took the $25,000 and divided it up by clubs, and assuming that roughly the same number is going to come in, I'm figuring that basically we're going to have enough money to put together 33 $750 grants, and there's a leftover of one at $250. And so that would be my proposal to do. And we would put the form up hopefully this weekend where clubs can start using the funds. And again, food-related programs, PPE type programs of almost identical form to what we had before. Okay, so let me move on to one last slide, because there's one last thing I wanted to cover with you, and that is that we actually have started, the Rotary made some significant changes, and one of the changes it made to the Global Grant Program was it removed a requirement for global grants to have 30% of the funding come in from the international club. And that was specifically so global grants could actually be done in the United States with an international partner who didn't have to put up 30% of the cost. And so we have taken on one global grant. Global grants cannot be used for basically disposable, discretionary things, food, PPE, but they can be used for equipment. They can be used for sustainable items, for those of you that have been involved in global grants. So we have started a global grant. The idea is that we're going to use it for food-related entities in King and Snohomish counties where our clubs are located. It could be for refrigeration, cooking, other sustainable equipment requirements, basically to meet the huge increase in food demand. There's a significant need for capacity out there. Food banks are stretched to the limits, and so we've teamed up. We're going to have Harvest Against Hunger. I know David Bobanic's on the call. He's going to administer the program. We're anticipating $1,000 grants initially. The international club, believe it or not, we've got a club in Guatemala who has already signed up, got their board approval. The Mill Creek Club is stepping up to be the host club here. We've already got a commitment of $4,500 so far, and our goal is to raise at least $15,000, which would equate to a global grant of about $52,500 if you do the 3.5 times math. So for each dollar contributed by a club, it equals to about $3.5 in grant value. The reason I bring this up is because you'll have an opportunity, if you want, as a club, to designate your $750 to go to this global grant. We're going to make it really simple. If you want to participate, and each participating club gets to basically be named on the global grant, but they also get a first round shot at the grant distribution. So for example, and I'm just going to pick a club out there. If Linwood Club decides we'll give the $750 to the global grant, they're going to help us designate where that $1,000, which food entity, whether it's a food bank or a lunch, whatever the nonprofit is or whatever, they'll get an opportunity to say, I want that grant to go to that particular entity. So, it's a significant, I think, for $750, you get $2,250 of value to our district in terms of long-term sustainable equipment that is going to be used today and well into the future. So I'm going to ask you to consider that as well. I know that's a lot. I'm going to put information in with actually the form to sign up for the grants, and we'll take it from there. And with that, Bill, I'll turn it back over to you to administer any questions.
So quite simply, I'll kind of summarize. The COVID, I'm out of focus. Come on, work focus. There it is. So the COVID $30,000 grant, matching grant, we're out of right now. The AG grants, we're out of right now. We're out of the funds. We received $25,000 from Rotary International. We're getting about $750 per club, up to about 33 clubs. And so that's yours to use. And that's a grant. That is not a match, that is a grant. And this is the suggestion that's coming from the district is Harvest Against Hunger. And the importance of this is that because of the situation that Rotary International's done, it allows us to do what's called a reverse, I call it a reverse global grant. This is a global grant that's coming into our district, and it allows to do that multiplication factor that we've always talked about. So in other words, if we raise $15,000, it becomes $50,000. And that $50,000 goes directly towards Hunger for Harvest. And David, if you want to start speaking, I can go ahead and turn you on. Or you can go ahead and turn on your own mic, David, and just explain a little bit about the importance of what you want to use the money for and what you're going to be using it for. And for those clubs that do want to participate. David Bobanik, please.
Okay, thanks, Bill. And hi, everybody. Jeff, really good job getting that information out. It was really clear. Really thoughtful, and kudos to you and your team for the work that you've done in the past month. Holy cow. This program is based on something that we've run for a couple of years now here at Harvest Against Hunger. And it is we have found to be the fastest and easiest way to get funding to hunger relief organizations so that they can build capacity that they know they need. And so we've tried to build a program that allows flexibility so that the programs, those hunger relief organizations can identify what their needs are, be it a freezer, a cooler, maybe replacing a compressor, something along those lines. There's a lot of flexibility built into it. What we will do is likely create a Google form. We already have one, so I'll just replicate what we've used previously. Organizations will be able to submit the applications, probably with the direction of you folks at the club level. Jeff will need to figure out how we're going to tie those things together as having the Rotary Club be a sponsor. But we should be able to turn those funds around pretty quickly and get them out into the hunger relief organizations where they're needed. And I've talked to a couple of clubs over the course of the past couple of days. And one of the things that we see looming on the horizon is a pretty serious need for capacity at the food pantry and smaller food bank levels. So that local level capacity is already pressed right now. And so whatever we can do to help them, we don't get any administrative costs or fees or anything for this. It is all passed through to those organizations. So we're looking forward to partnering on this.
So again, you have the forms. You have the forms online, and Jeff will make sure that forms go out. And if you have $750 that you can use, this is a suggestion, and I think it's a really good one. And the reason why I'm kind of excited about it is not too often that you get a 3.5 to 1 return directly that will help the food banks right in your own town. And so you'll have to say to do that. Good. Thank you so much, Jeff and David. I'd like to go into the next subject. One of the things I've noticed, I had a chance to go ahead and speak with all the district governors during a Zoom meeting up and down the West Coast. And you can't believe, I mean, if you want to know how, what Rotary's about, our district is doing a fantastic job, but you multiply that with all the districts up and down the West Coast, makes you proud. You wonder why you're Rotarian. This is multiplying all the way down through every single district, helping the food banks, helping PEs, helping those that are in need, and that type of thing. But one of the things that's starting to happen is that we're running out of money. And we only have so much money with the DDF. And the way the DDF works is that we have to give money to the foundation on an annual type basis. So that way, 3 years later, we get half of it back. And if we gave more money 3 years ago, I'm going to talk about this later on, we'll have more money DDF right now for this COVID crisis. But what I'd like to do right now is I'm going to give you an example. And there's lots of examples, but I'm going to give you an example what we can do without any money and the results that can do it. And this came from a brand new Rotarian. It came from the Mill Creek Club, and Mary Kay Voss actually joined less than a year ago. And I want her to spend just a couple minutes explaining how a little effort with no money resulted on something that the clubs can do. And I want to share that with you. So Mary Kay, if you can unmute yourself, feel free to do that, and or I can do that. You're good, Mary Kay. Go.
Never had a problem unmuting myself. We started with the fact that there's a huge demand for our food banks these days. So many more people are needing help. In Mill Creek alone, our food bank was serving 140 households. Today it is serving 400. The other side of that equation is that the supply is down, because so many people are out of work, they're not giving as much, or they're just not going or whatever, but they're having a hard time with that demand supply. So the premise was that there are people probably at home that have some food to give, but they don't think it's enough, it won't make any difference, or they're just not going out. So they may have some to give, but they're not going anywhere. So what we came up with as a solution is that we'll go get it for you. And I called it Rotary Drives for Food. That we needed 2 people. Vicki Wellman, who is our president, what do you call him? Next nominee, guy after the next one? Nominee, thank you, okay. So Vicki is the chair right now of the community service committee. And so Vicky handles the outgoing side, all the flyers and advertising and getting in touch with every single organization we can get in touch with. And then I handled the coordinating side, had people just email me and say, yes, I have a bag, pick it up at my house. And I needed their street address, their subdivision, and then I mapped it. I'd turn this around and show you, but you don't care. So my husband printed out great big huge maps. We mapped it. We ended up with 101 people requesting a pickup at their homes. What we actually had was probably 250 households participate. We had 11 drivers. The YMCA helped us. We showed up at 8:30. The guys were out of there by 8:45 with their little, everybody had their route. Most of them were back by 10:30 or 11 o'clock. We raised 4,000 pounds of food in 2 hours. We also got about $2,500 in checks. And our food bank uses the checks for fresh produce, dairy, or meat. So in fact, one of my donors said, I want this to go for meat because I don't want to take it. So that's what we did. It was a lot of work on the coordinating side, but the actual help for that day, everybody showed up at 8:30 and most of them were home by 11. But we made quite an impact. So we're now doing it every other week. We're scheduled now for May 1st, 15th, and 29th. The nice thing is my database is growing because I already have those 101 that contributed last time. So they already got an email saying, hey, you guys were great. Now, how many of you want to be picked up this next week? Again, lots of publicity to go out to let people know.
Yep.
But we didn't spend any money.
No, and this is going to be happening more and more. What do you want the clubs to do? Amy, are you here from Vashon? Amy, are you online? Amy Huggins? If you want to unmute yourself, I don't know if she is. I can't see her. If she's online, yeah, I can unmute you.
Right here.
There you go, Amy. So you're doing something a little bit different in Vashon, Amy. So why don't you explain what you're doing? It's volunteers, coordination. So what are you doing in Vashon, Amy?
What we've done is we've given our grant with the $1,000 one with our $4,000 from our club to our senior center. And they are providing meals 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for stay-at-home seniors and their families. Yep. And they are expanding beyond the senior center membership to any senior who is doing stay-at-home with the use of this grant. So they were thrilled to get the money. It really made a difference.
I thought it was, tell me about the seeds. That's what I was interested in. The seeds along the fence. Oh, that's what I was interested in. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So we have a program called the Vashon Seed Program, where we are trying to get some funding to work with the land trust here that has a really ongoing farm project where they normally give all the produce to the school district, but currently is working with this Vashon Seed Project to also collect seeds from what is grown at Matsuda Farm and then return it in to additional food the next year. So for sustainability ongoingly with produce that grows particularly well in the Pacific Northwest, because it turned into food here, whether it's legumes or potatoes or squashes or all the different kinds of foods. And so they're really excited about this project for sustainable food.
And I really kind of like this idea because they're also talking about planting the plants along the fences at people's yards and things like this. In other words, you don't have to have a garden to go ahead and do that. And so I just wanted to share a couple ideas and you're going to hear more about this because as the districts, as the clubs start finding out stuff and sharing ideas, you're going to think of things that you can do that's outside of the box that you normally don't have with the typical grants with funds and things like that. Talk about out of the box. One of the things that happened for a lot of clubs that we lost our fundraiser because of the fact of the COVID virus. And give me a second here. And with that being said, I want to introduce to you an individual from the Woodinville. Jay, are you available right now? You can unmute yourself, Jay.
I am here. I am here.
So Jay is a Rotarian from Woodinville. I love his shirt. He's a Cougar, of course. And I had to just
I just bought the shirt. It was on sale.
But he's a professional. He's been doing this for a number of years. Jay, why don't you just give us a quick background and what just happened at Woodinville, and
Sure.
some of the stuff that you've been doing is really kind of a unique situation in today's times. Jay, go ahead.
Absolutely. And I'd like to be able to share my screen. I've got a couple of
Okay,
slides.
go
that
ahead.
might-
I can. I'll
you see
share you.
that?
I'll make you a co-host here. Give me a second.
Okay.
You're
All
good
right.
to go, Jay.
Thank you. Can you see my screens, online fundraising?
Not yet. Try it again.
Okay. Do I have to click something?
Yeah, share screen at the bottom of the page.
Okay. Oh, no, I just did. I just blanked something. Share screen, share screen. Okay, there. I don't know where to go on this thing. This is terrible. Show taskbar. Okay. I'm supposed to share my screen. There's a button. Oh, there it is. Share screen, the green thing. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. I think I just did it. You can see it
There
now?
you go. You got her. There we go.
All right. Oh boy. And you think I'm a technology guy too. So I've been working with charities for about 30 years, and one of my main businesses is a software company called Maestrosoft. Some of you may be familiar with it already. But when the quarantine happened, our phones started ringing off the hook because, of course, spring is gala season, and we had about 1,000 clients out there depending on us, and all of a sudden their galas were canceled, including our Woodinville Rotary Club. Our gala was scheduled for April 18th. It was canceled. So we tried to figure out what can we do, and we just quickly moved people over to online auctions. But before I jump and show you about what the Woodinville Rotary did in their success last weekend, I thought I would tell you what I've been hearing and what I've been fielding from around the country as people are panicked and canceling events and wondering what to do next. And so when you lose your ability to have a gala or ability to have your group fundraiser, you have a lot of choices. You can just cancel it. Some people did. You can postpone it to a later date. You can try and go to a different kind of fundraiser of some sort, maybe in a virtual mode. You can say, well, we just don't have as much money. Let's reduce our causes, come up with fewer causes. That doesn't feel good for Rotarians. You could have your event anyway, but figure out a way to do it virtually. And that's what we did with our Rotary Club. We did the same event, kept the same date, kept the same items, kept the same attendees. We just decided to take a 4-hour event and stretch it into 4 days. Or you can postpone your event and then replace it with an online event and then do your regular event later when you can get back in the room. Or you can take the easy way out and just have everybody write a check. And that's the one that nearly no one likes. So here's really what's going on. And I've been a guest speaker on a number of webinars over the last month as I've been invited to participate in things. And so kind of here's what's going on. Some are doing online auctions. I was just on a webinar today with the Ronald McDonald House nationwide, and they're talking, they had a couple people that had very successful online 10Ks, seriously. They had people sign up. They had to sign a waiver in case they got injured. They were able to buy the T-shirt. They got a runner's number. They did everything they would do if they were actually having a real 10K. It's just that they didn't leave their house. And by the way, they had to start their own watch, their stopwatch, and then turn in their times. And they gave out awards. Very, very creative. Today, one of the people on the McDonald's Ronald McDonald House webinar talked about doing an online golf tournament. And they were selling mulligans and selling golf balls, and it had closest to the pin. And of course, we know golfers lie anyway on their scorecards, so it doesn't really matter. They all had to turn in their scorecards. You can do a direct ask. Some people are doing that. We had one McDonald's house that's going to do a text-to-fund deal connected with iHeartRadio. So you have a lot of these other options. So let's talk about what Woodinville Rotary did. We had about 3 weeks. And in that panic 3 weeks, we had to convert our in-room auction at Bear Creek Country Club to an online event. And we ended up with about $62,000, $63,000 raised. And of that, about $35,000 was on the auction. So where'd that rest of that money come from? Well, that was money that people already paid to be a sponsor, already paid to attend the event. They already bought their tickets. And so we reached out to everybody that had already paid their money to come to the event. We had only 4 people out of the entire room ask for a refund. So what does that do for our net? It means that our gross was 3,000 and our net was 63,000 because we didn't have any expenses. It equates to about an $85,000 gross and a $65,000 net. So online will work. So how does it compare to an in-room auction? Well, we had 312 bids. We only had 37 items to sell. So we had 37 successful winners. And from the $30,000 and 37 successful winners, that's $810 per buying unit. And you know what the normal average is? And I know we've got Tim Leahy on the call here somewhere. Tim will verify this. Most clients look for $750 to $1,000 per buying unit at a gala. Guess what? We get the same number. So it does work. It absolutely will work. And then what about the yield? You know, we always like to look at performance to yield. And so we had $8,000 in the silent auction. We made $7,000 on it. That's 86% yield. I went back to our auction two years ago, or a year and a half ago, when we did our in-room auction where I was the auctioneer, and our yield in the silent auction was 86%, exactly the same. The only thing that went down was the live auction, because this year we did the live auction online, and a year and a half ago we did it with an auctioneer, and we were at about 100% yield with the auctioneer. We were at 80% yield with the virtual. But either way, those are excellent yields. You're not going to lose money if you do an in-room auction, because you're going to an online auction, because you're going to probably make up for it in the reduction of cost. So basically, conclusion, pretty simple. Online auctions are working. The expenses obviously are near zero, so you've got that going for you. They work now because people are isolated, they're motivated, and have fewer other options. I think once the quarantine is lifted, you're going to probably see a different world. People probably not be as motivated for online auctions. Once the quarantine's over, they're going to want to get out and still go to the galas. But you have an opportunity now. You've got about a 6-month window, I think, now to do an online event, and you can capture that energy of people being home, and they all want to help. I mean, we're Rotarians, you know, we all want to help. We're going to figure out a way to make it work. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm a Woodinville Rotarian. I'd love to help you. My information is on the screen, and I'm sure that you can get it from Bill or anyone on the call that knows me. And thanks for your time.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Jay. This is a very different time that we're walking into, and I'm trying to introduce some ideas to you to consider. Jay's got some expertise. He's from the Woodinville office, and he's been doing it for a number of years. Feel free, if you're thinking about it, he's in touch with many different avenues besides the online auction, but I wanted to share that with you. I don't see any questions at this time. Bill McCulley was raising his hand. Bill, if you want to unmute yourself, did I miss something, Bill? I don't see him at the moment. If you go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, my question was back on David's, when he did his presentation, if he could give us an idea, what in terms of refrigeration or storage capacity does $52,000 buy?
David Bomatic, are you online still? Well, I can probably get a word from...
Sorry about that. It was a mad scramble to unmute. I was printing out a couple of documents I just received. Sorry, Bill.
So
God, you know, after 6 of these today, you'd think I'd have the hang of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good question. So for our purposes, it really does depend on the hunger relief organization. Some of them will, like I know the Des Moines Food Bank right now is looking to replace a pretty significant freezer unit, and it's probably going to cost them $3,000 or something like that. But then there are other ones that are slightly smaller where they will be able to use $1,000 to get at least halfway there for a pretty good commercial. I mean, a lot of these programs are looking for commercial units because they have to be really strong units. So you know, a residential unit will fall apart in a year. So it's been a portion of the funding that they've gotten, and then they also are going to be getting funding from other sources, potentially through Washington State. Just before getting on this call, I was on a call with the Washington State Department of Agriculture, and there will be an additional pot of money coming from WSDA. So they should be able to combine a couple of different resources, but it's almost like we're giving them the front end of matching grants to go out and get that equipment.
Good. Okay. Let's see. I hear about farmers destroying food due to restaurants not buying. Is that because of the reasons we don't have a way to store them, or is it more of a transportation supply issue, David?
Yes.
Both?
Yeah. And yes, and so a lot of times farmers are sending things. Well, yeah, boy, let me take a step back here. It depends on the crop. So dairy farmers, you know, we see the footage of dairy farmers throwing away their milk in New York, in upstate New York. A lot of that is because the contracts with the schools have some specific pack sizes, and it's really hard for them to reset their process so that they're able to sell to different entities or give them away to food banks in a way that the food banks can use. We're working really hard right now with WSDA and the USDA. A couple of programs are going to be revealed or announced in the next week, where we're going to be increasing the amount of purchasing that is being done through WSDA and a couple of our other partners for produce for local food banks. But yeah, it's really tough right now for farmers, and it's challenging. And we're starting to run up against some transportation and distribution hurdles right now too.
Pat, you have a follow-up question. I saw you waving, Pat. Is there something? Unmute yourself, please. You're done? Okay. David Meeks, you're saying something. Unmute yourself, please. Maybe I can unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now, David.
So my question, David, is this. I don't understand on the packaging. Let's talk milk, because milk goes into all the schools, and it goes in a pint, and it goes into a milk cooler, and every school has a bunch of them. You know, and I would think, you're not really changing the packaging if you provide it to us, if we have refrigeration and can get it to the people that need it. That doesn't square up with my thinking in terms of how that product is prepared for the schools.
Yeah.
That's how most of it's sold, especially in elementary schools.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that one, I'd love to dig into it, because that just doesn't, rather than dumping it like they have been.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to do anything for the farmers in upstate New York, but we can certainly try to see what we can do here in Washington.
They've been doing it in other states, David. That's why, they've actually, farmers at the farms across the country have been dumping it.
Yeah.
Well, I think if I can interject, it's not the contracts with the schools that are being unfulfilled. Many schools are still serving as a source of nutrition to students. It's the contracts with restaurants and other large food service industry that's very challenging for the supply chain to efficiently redirect. But again, it's certainly an area worth considering, but I don't believe it's really a challenge with respect to contracts that dairymen had with the schools. It's more in the food service industry.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm going to go ahead and kind of force the, this is something that we can feel free to give David a call, offline or whatever. He's always available. I want to keep the meeting rolling because we have about a half an hour left here, a little bit less than that. One of the things that I'm noticing that there's some, I want to probably, if you want to raise your hand a little bit, but I've seen some very unique things with Zoom, with being done with Zoom, for instance. And I just wanted to share a couple quick ideas. One of them that came from the University Club, and they actually have, we've all had Zoom happy hours. We talk about Zoom, a lot of clubs have Zoom happy hours. There is a Zoom coffee hour. They have coffee in the morning. And that's very successful. Brenda, you raised your hand. I'm going to unmute you, Brenda. You probably have something that you, give me a second. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead, Brenda.
Hello.
Are you there? Go ahead.
I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Yep.
Yes, this coffee hour has just been really fun. Bring your coffee mug, right? There's Karma below me. And we just have different topics we like to talk about. And it seems like now we're evolving into thinking of a book club for us. Because everyone was sharing what they're doing, what they're reading, and it's been wonderful. And another success has been Monday nights. We have from 5 to 6 a happy hour. We've done this for about 3 weeks now. And this will be our second week now for the coffee hour. So there are a lot of innovative ideas. People are just so hungry for socialism.
Yep.
So
Brenda,
thank
if I
you.
could add to that, that means that our club is now meeting 3 times a week.
Yes, 3.
Oh.
And we got participants at all of the meetings.
So we have makeups triple times.
Yeah.
Thank you. One of the things that I heard also from university, they have this what's called the Angel Squad,
Oh,
and it's very important to keep in contact with these Rotarians. And why this is important, because there's a lot of people that don't have the access, they don't have the Zoom knowledge. For instance, somebody reached out because their dog was sick. I mean, you know how pets are with people and things like this. And so those are the things that you can do that I would encourage clubs to do, and consider the fact that there's a lot more than Zoom, that you should actually have people working behind the scenes, calling people and making sure they're okay. And I just wanted to share that with you at this time. Let's see, where am I here? Next point on the list. I've been doing Zoom poker with friends. Connor Tablet. There we go, Connor. Zoom poker and friends, and it turns into charity, and this is a fundraiser event. So again, a little imagination. You can look at the chat window here on the side. We do a clever Zoom thing if interested. That's Leo from Lake Union. Frank, you're waving your hand. What are you doing, Frank? Unmute yourself. You know how to do it.
Yep, I'm all good.
Yep.
One of the things that we've been doing with our group of friends, and a lot of them are Rotarians, but we have a gentleman that does trivia that we go to on Tuesday nights when we're not socially isolated. And he's doing, he has figured out a way to do trivia night where you have to have basically 2 devices that can do Zoom. And we have our team on one Zoom meeting that we're actively communicating on. And then he has a Zoom meeting and that we all connect to, but only the leader of our team actually interacts with them. And then we have you have a headset so you can hear the questions, but it's worked out really well. We've done it now for a couple of weeks, and it's been pretty fun, actually. It's worked out really well.
And if you're Seattle Northeast, you can probably do somehow, if you can figure it out how to do karaoke with it, you'd be in great shape, right? I'm going to go ahead and mute all again for a second, because like once in a while I get lost. I'm going to change the subject. We had a change in the presidential citation, guys, because of this COVID virus. If you look at the presidential citation, if you remember the folder, this is the one that kind of the skinny one that I handed out and stuff like this. Okay, where is it? Right there, that one. Instead of having 5 categories or 5 things you have to select, we're 3, and they're very doable type thing. This is the most prestigious award that the club could have. So the president-elects, bug your presidents, go ahead and make sure that they get the president's citation. There's a lot of clubs could receive this right now, and so that's something that you can really work with the president. President-elects, I'm going to encourage you to poke your presidents, because I'd like to hand out a lot of presidential citations next year, because you have until June to go ahead and finish this up. On another note, let me keep my notes here. There's some other awards that I will be working with. You'll see an email from me, but let me share a couple of awards that we'll be doing, because we didn't have a district conference, but we're going to have what's called a significant service award. This is designed to give an opportunity to recognize clubs and their activities, a significant problem or need in the local community. It's how you solve the problem. So it's more of a community service type thing. So it's the significant service award. And I'm going to have the AGs involved in this. So the assistant governors are going to be involved, and the president will be involved in this too. We have the Avenues of Service Award, which is pretty obvious. It's going to be at the region. It's going to be at the areas with your AGs and up to the district side. I'll be emailing this out. So again, this is something you can kind of go ahead and take a look at for the next month. You have the Rotary Foundation District Service Award. This is kind of neat, but it's going to be something that some people do some unique things for the foundation. And of course, I'm open for suggestions for Rotarian of the Year award coming through the assistant governors. It'd be nice to recognize some great people that we have. And I'm thinking about maybe having one for each area and then have one completely for the district. But I'll be giving that information by email to you shortly. One of the things to change the subject, the next on the list, we talked at the very beginning about the AG grants, the COVIDs, the need for money. One of the things that I've heard from the districts is that a lot of people no longer have venue charges because all the venues have been canceled. And this is a good opportunity for you with your foundation chairs and also with the presidents to talk about E-Ray. I'm the world's worst speller. If you notice, I spelled E-Ray wrong. It's not E-R-A-Y, it's E-R-E-Y. Every Rotarian every year. So I do that on purpose just to see if you're awake, by the way, misspell words. But anyway, one of the most important things that you can do right now is to make sure that you meet your foundation goals. Rotarians give every single year an E-Ray, because when you donate the money, what happens is we get 50% back, and we're going to get it back in 3 years. So the money that was in DDF this year was done 3 years ago. And so this is the importance of have consistency, making sure you do this online. The clubs are saving a lot of money. Why? Because they're not in the venues right now. So you can use that as a leverage point to go ahead and make this encouragement to go ahead and make sure that people give to this great foundation. What I'd like to do at this time, we started a new initiative on the thanks to Kathy Gibson. And she came up with this idea and working with Karma. And again, it's because of this time, and I'm going to go ahead and Kathy, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And then I want you to follow up when you're done talking about that, talking about your assembly. That's coming up in May, because this is very important for everybody here. So Kathy Gibson, go ahead, and it's all yours, Kathy.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I have been so inspired when I hear the stories of Rotarians keeping in touch with other Rotarians that we thought we might want to take the opportunity to reach out to our broader Rotary family, and specifically past Rotarians who are still in our district but aren't in our clubs. So we sent out just a We Care email, just saying, how are you doing? Be in touch if we can help you. Be in touch if you'd like to join us just to help in the community, and shared with them what the different clubs are doing. And just a gentle touch. It was not a membership recruiting effort, but just a we care, how are you doing? And so far we've gotten some nice responses back, and just wanted everybody to know of that outreach. It was really targeted at recently departed Rotarians. So Rotarians who've left their clubs in 2017, 2018, 2019, and year-to-date 2020. I mention that because, in fact, you may want to reach out from the club level to some of these folks as well. But this was just your friends at Rotary touching base in this unusual time. Then, as Bill mentioned, one of the big things the district is trying to deliver every year is quality training to help the leaders in the district and Rotarians at large have a better Rotary experience. And so we had great plans, like so many people had plans for this spring. We had plans for a terrific district training assembly on May 2nd at South Seattle College. So that is not going to happen. But in place of that, we're going to take the opportunity to move our training online. And instead of having it for a morning, we are going to spread it out over the entire month of May, a virtual training festival. And we're going to be offering more topics, giving Rotarians more opportunities to follow up on topics of interest, as well as particular skills for leadership roles that they're taking on. We have theme weeks, and you might have seen that in the most recent district newsletter. We'll have a week focused on the foundation. We will have a week focusing on particular Rotary roles, the job of president, the job of club treasurer, the job of membership chair, the job of club secretary. And then we've got 2 weeks of Rotary innovation. And so this will be an opportunity to showcase all the fun new things we're going to be doing in our district in the coming year. Some of it in district committees, some of it district initiatives, but an opportunity to really give everyone a window into what to look forward to in the year ahead. You'll see starting next week the opening of registration for this festival month of training. And my ask to you tonight as club presidents and as club presidents-elect is to help us promote it at the club level. So we'll be reaching out to you with the specific information. And if you could make a point to mention it during your club meetings, put it on your club Facebook pages, on your club website, and in particular, my very favorite president-elects who are online tonight, reach out to your leadership team and say training is going to be available in May, and encourage your membership chair, your public image chair, your foundation chair, your club secretary, your club treasurer, and there'll be even sessions for you as well. So there's a great array of content that'll be online and accessible. So let's see if we can maximize attendance. I've been in touch with my counterparts on the West Coast, and just like us, they've had to cancel their in-person training. Most of them have completed their training, and they have found that they've had record attendance as a result of moving online. So I'm confident we can as well reach not only club leaders for next year, but all kinds of Rotarians around the district to participate in this. So it's our May Festival of Training, and you'll be hearing more about it, and I hope you'll help us spread the word. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much. One of the things she noticed, she said the word 30 online events. So you're going to be able to choose. Now, with 30 online events, we're going to be asking for help. So if you know of somebody in your club that's good at Zoom or webinar, we want to have their names immediately, okay? Because I'm not going to be sitting down here behind this machine for 30 times. As a district governor, I want to delegate. So otherwise, it's going to cost at least a good bottle of scotch later on when this is all done. And so I would encourage everybody to go ahead and look who they have in their club and email me or Jean, email me would be fantastic, because I can pass it around, and we're going to go through some training. And if we get 10 people, we're only talking about only 3 1-hour type things. I'm going to turn this over to Karma just for a minute. And the reason why is because you saw the last newsletter, wasn't that? I mean, I hope everybody really liked the last newsletter. It was one of the best I've ever seen. I've shared it, by the way, up and down the West Coast. I shared it with the Director Jarita, and it's just very impressive. But we're working on some other stuff going on. But Karma, why don't you go ahead and tell us, make sure that how things are flying through, you're getting the information through, because you're kind of the focal point. Karma, the stage is yours right now.
But first, before I do that, I saw Kathy raising her hand. I think you had something you wanted to say about the last.
Just a tiny little bit of additional context for what Bill mentioned. The reason we're asking for the Zoomers out there who've got Zoom competency is we want to pair them up with the presenter of each session in the district training assembly. So there'll be someone presenting content and then someone running the presentation, managing the chat room, the raised hands, muting, unmuting people. So it'll be a tag team, the talker and then the tech. And so we've got the talkers lined up. We want to pair them up with someone to run the technical aspects. And so that's what the ask is from Bill, is who would like to support a presenter during one or potentially several of the upcoming sessions next month. Thank you, Karma.
You're welcome. So I just want to address the newsletter for just a minute, because this is one of those times when it takes a village. And the feedback I'm getting on I guess it's been the last 2 newsletters, has been absolutely fantastic. And I've looked at it and wondered, I've been doing this a long time. What's changed? Well, what really has changed is all of you have been giving me input. So I've been sending out an email to the presidents, which I hadn't done prior to this strange life that we're all leading. And the presidents have been responding with, what are your clubs up to? What are you doing in the community? And not every president, about half the presidents respond to each of the emails I send, but I want to give the presidents-elect a heads up also that this looks like something we should carry forward as we continue on, because especially right now, the clubs are starving for what are other clubs doing. All of us at some point during the day feel like we're kind of stuck in this little tunnel, and wondering, how do we get out of it? And so I think this is making a huge difference. And so thank you to all of you who are participating. And I apologize, sometimes you send me an email and it gets stuck in my spam folder and I don't see it, and so you don't get in. And I know if you send me an email, you expect to see it in the newsletter. So please continue to be forgiving, because I'm doing my best to get everybody in. And keep responding, and reach out to me, send pictures. Is that what you wanted me to cover, Bill?
Yeah, pretty much. Thank you very much, Karma. I'm going to end on this side note. Jeff Brennan, as you heard from the at the beginning, talked about that he has to keep track of every single grant and the subject matter, how much was spent, the results, and it's part of his responsibility. And his committee does this, and Jeff does this as the district foundation chair. And of course, we're going to be forwarding that information onto Karma for the May 1st or the May 4th, approximately during that time when that newsletter goes out. So a lot of the projects are going to be highlighted in this on this next newsletter. And what I have a list of all the local newspapers of every single club, and we're going to do a PR release, and the PR release is going to be based on this information. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is also highlighting the fact that if you want more information, to contact your local Rotary Club. And so you might want to be aware there, presidents, that you might be having a phone call from, and I'll have a list of also names within the email, not the PR release, but the actual the information. So that way, and for instance, the Edmonds Beacon, for instance, will have a phone number and a name of the president if they want more information. And so again, it's a way that we can sit back and kind of promote a little bit what we do, and I'll actually kind of be proud of the fact that we are Rotarians. I have, let's see, I'm going to look at a couple other areas quickly on the side. Karma, you are providing a great leadership. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Karma, for the work. I see that I'm going to go ahead and open up the mics at this time for everybody. And if anybody has a question or wants to say anything, feel free to do it now.
Yeah.
Cindy Holm, go ahead, Cindy.
What was that?
Oh, you must have, I don't know if your mic, but all the mics are open for the next.
Oh.
Does anybody have any questions or anything? Good. Okay, this is what's going to happen here at the following through this. We're not going to have the meeting in 2 weeks. Reason why is we're in the middle of the assembly, so we need to be concentrating on assembly. So Kathy Gibson and I, we're going to go ahead and have a meeting, organize it. Sometimes it's either going to be the end of May or the 1st of June. We're not quite sure how it's going to look like, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to have a changing of the guard. We're not quite sure what that's going to look like. You know, it's like going, we're going to be talking to a lot of people because we have been, it's never been done before. So we usually do it at the conferences. So if you have any questions, presidents, you can feel free to contact me. President-elects, you can contact Kathy. More importantly, use your assistant governors They're there for you to work with. Are there any other questions? I can go ahead and close the meeting down, officially close the meeting down, and go from there. Thank you so much, everybody. Have yourself, be safe, and wash your hands, and I look forward to seeing everybody very soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Chief, great job. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.